There is a widely held view in the international development mainstream that while local communities will raise money to build a classroom or pay medical bills, they won't do the same for human rights or social justice. There are problems with this narrative. It simply isn't true. Communities all over the world have long been mobilizing local resources to claim their rights. But somehow, they are not seen. Look at Western Uganda. Over the years, communities have been harmed by large international development programs. One of such aimed to conserve fish stocks and promote sustainable livelihoods in the Lake Edward and Lake Albert region. But fishing communities faced terrible hardship from strict restrictions, and the promise of alternative livelihoods never came. Instead, enforcement was carried out by a quasi-military force. Boats were destroyed, people were arrested, and several people died. Here was a well-intentioned international development project that failed to engage meaningfully with or protect the communities it was intended to help. And when it came to taking up the cause of the communities, it wasn't an international human rights organization leading the way. It was a local group called the Twe Waneho Listeners Club, also known as TLC. TLC started in 2006 as a radio talk show called Twe Waneho, which means let's struggle for ourselves. Over time, it evolved into a locally rooted rights and justice champion. Now it uses community philanthropy to fight for rights. Local resources pay for gathering evidence, impact surveys, and legal fees. The communities took their claims to court and achieved recompense in every case. This success has had a lasting effect in the region. Impacted communities have become highly engaged and politically active. TLC's approach of evidence and negotiation is being adopted in other parts of Uganda. Around the world, claiming rights from the bottom up is the norm rather than the exception. Indonesia suffered brutal anti-communist massacres during the Suharto regime in 1965, followed by 3 decades of an authoritarian military regime. Thousands of those who survived the massacres were imprisoned without trial. And when they were eventually freed, they were ostracized. They were sent to live in remote rural locations and branded as traitors, enemies of the nation. They and their children still face a crushing social stigma today. As a grassroots organization, ICA was able to support their cause, one that international aid considered too political to touch. They developed a strong bond with the survivors. ICA can speak with a legitimate voice on their struggle to claim their rights and heal. Today, there's still a repressive political culture in Indonesia. The word communist is used for any activity the government doesn't like. Despite this, younger Indonesians are learning about the survivors. A turning point came when a popular Balinese rock group recorded an album, Prison Songs, covers of songs created during the survivors' long years in prison. Young people started to ask, who was in prison and why? Through song, theater, and prose, a suppressed history rose to the surface. Again and again, communities show up when state or international actors are nowhere to be seen. The Trans Queer Fund and Collective in Kenya have taken a bold decision on foreign funding. They don't accept donations. Most donors don't get the realities of their work or the communities they serve. The Trans Queer Fund reject the way foreign donors work, their reporting procedures, the project-based funding, and their slowness to act. Often they need to move quickly to help someone in a precarious situation. Foreign donors may also require them to be legally registered. In a country that criminalizes queer and trans bodies, that is impossible. Trans Queer Fund fosters mutual aid within their community. Those who are funded go on to support others. Solidarity grows from the grassroots outward. In many parts of India, caste-based discrimination is still widespread. Dalits must use separate wells, and they face restrictions in schools, public transport, and temples. The Navsajan Trust, who championed Dalit rights, found the loss of their external funding liberating. It stopped when the Indian government introduced new restrictions on foreign contributions in 2024. Now, Navsajan are 100% funded from their communities. Even before external funding was cut off, resources gathered from the community were a powerful force. In 2022, more than 350 people set out from Gujarat for the capital, New Delhi. They were carrying a 1-ton brass coin made from donated utensils. Engraved on the coin was a question: will the 1947 dream of untouchability-free India be a reality in 2047? The coin never reached the capital. The marchers were stopped by police as they approached New Delhi. Their symbolic mission to have the coin incorporated into the foundations of the new parliament building was directly blocked by government. Having no external money has freed the Navsajan Trust to do more challenging work. Gone are the subtle strings that are attached to external funding. This matters as trust is the essential currency in communities fighting for dignity and justice. Leaders need to build and gain trust. External funding and the fear of losing it can undermine that. The fight for social justice can only flourish if based on non-negotiable values. There are trends and fashions in international support for rights work, and often the funding programs are limited in time, which doesn't fit with decades-long struggles. The Kenyan Community Foundation, RODI, is an example of an organization in it for the long haul. They have worked with prisoners and their communities since the early 1990s. It started in a prison which was struggling to feed its prisoners, and from there its role grew into working both from the inside and beyond the prison walls, changing people's mindsets, helping communities see that prisoner rehabilitation is in their interest and worth the support of money and in-kind donations. Over the years, the Kenyan Prison Service has come to see RODI not as an outsider, but as a crucial partner. RODI has helped transform government mindsets too, away from prison as punishment to a rehabilitation-focused approach. As a result, Kenya's prisons opened their doors to visitors for the first time in 2001. Conditions have improved, as have outcomes for released prisoners and their communities. Would an international NGO have been there for long, slow work, of changing mindsets around prisoner rights in Kenya? Probably not. In a world of shrinking civic space and coordinated global rollbacks by governments on human rights, international actors who raise the issue of rights are increasingly accused of importing foreign agendas. Local partners are labeled as agents of the West. Genuinely local movements fly beneath the radar and navigate local contexts. They build bridges with authorities and broad constituencies from a position of authenticity and deep connection. Even though community-led rights efforts are everywhere, it can seem like they are invisible. Somehow, international actors have centered themselves as the main defenders of human rights. International allies do have a role to play, but perhaps it's time to think about what a new form of global solidarity might look like. So where to begin? Connect with and listen to the local organizations fighting for rights and social justice. It won't be hard to find them. They are always there.